There are a couple of videos out there that show how to replace the convertible top on E36 BMW M3, but none of them seem to cover the entire process from start to finish. So I set out to do that, hopefully help out anybody else that needs to change their convertible top. I will give you detailed instructions from start to finish on the process, how to remove the top, as well as replacing the tension straps, then installing the new top from start to finish. Then start by removing the screws that attach the front and the rear trim pieces. Doesn't really matter which one you do first. The trim pieces are made of aluminum and have weather stripping attached. The rear can be removed and set to the side. The front, you'll remove the screws and then carefully let the trim piece hang down. Now you'll see this is glued on here, and it was the same way in the front. The front I was able to get off fairly easy. This is a little difficult, so I'm using this trim removal tool to loosen it up. I'm in Florida and it's like 400 degrees outside and raining hard. So I have the AC running and the fan in the garage. And in some of the shots, my dumbass put the camera and microphone right next to the fan. So the noise gets pretty annoying. And that's why sometimes I mute the sound and do this voice overlay. All right, now once you have the front and the back released, you're gonna work on these cables that run through the top. And also when you're reinstalling the new top, don't forget to put those back in. So these are attached here. So we're gonna pry this bracket up and then separate it just a little bit so we can slide this cable out. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. All right, now back up top, there's this other section that's glued to this front piece. So we need to remove that. Go around the other side, remove the rest of that. Okay, now this front section of the top has these two straps that are attached. And you'll see there's a screw here that's a hex or an Allen key. So that'll need to be removed on both sides. Now, I'm not sure if the new top, when it arrives today, is going to have these straps as well. But I'm going to pay attention to that. And if the top has these little tabs hanging down, then I know where they go. While I'm in here, I got a little bit of this insulation material that's broken down over time. So I'm just rubbing that loose and I'm going to vacuum it up. There's going to be some more in the back as well. All right, next I'm going to drill out the rivets on this section. It looks like there's 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put something in here to separate this, just so I don't damage the trim, because this trim's still in really nice condition. And I don't want to chew that up with the drill bit. All right, so I put some electrical tape on this drill bit so it doesn't damage that trim. Okay, now the piece comes off. Okay, now that both those sides are off, next, so mine's torn, but this is used to be stitched to the top. So this, if yours is still attached, that'll need to be removed. And how you need to do that is there's a plastic piece here that runs along this bar, kind of clamping it that way. And you just need to push this and slide it down, and you'll release that fabric. And I also need to do that to this one as well. You see the stitching came out from this one also, but this is part of the top. And the new top hopefully will have these flaps as well that I'll be able to wrap around this bar and then reattach. This plastic is old and brittle. Try to be careful. Alright, so now I'm going to bring the top back forward just a little bit so I have access to this section. I'm going to remove that plastic piece from here, and then the top should come on. There is a strap that was attached here. You can see this is all dry rotted. One on the other side. I'm going to leave this here so I know that's where the other one will attach. That's held on by a screw. Like an Allen. Okay, next I'm going to start on the straps. I'm going to start from the front and work my way back. There's a screw here. It needs to be undone. Underneath these flaps is where you're going to find the screws. This is glued down. When I put the new one on, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there and glue it back down as well. Now I'm going to install the new strap one section at a time as I remove the old strap. That way I ensure that I'm installing it exactly how the old strap was installed previously. Now the rear sections of the headliner are secured using those plastic C-shaped clamps that we removed earlier. Now the front section is secured using this thin metal retainer that runs through the headliner, as well as some little eyelets that are built into the tension straps. The bar has a built-in retainer on the left side, and the right side has a little plastic cap, which you'll need to remove first, then slide the retainer out of the headliner and the tension straps. Now I'm reinstalling the bar, running it through the little eyelets in the tension strap, then through the headliner, then through the eyelets on the tension strap on the other side. Then I'm going to reattach the plastic retainer on the far side. Alright, so what I was doing there is there's three little eyelets that this wire for the locking mechanism motors runs through, but I didn't feel like unplugging that cable and fishing it all the way out, so I just zip tied it to the eyelets that are in the bottom of the strap, and that should do the trick. Now when I zip tied them, I left them loose so there is room for movement. Now I'm going to continue working my way back, doing one section at a time. Now I did run into some screws that were stuck that I couldn't get out. They ended up getting stripped and needed to be drilled out and then re-tapped and replaced with new screws. Now the new straps didn't come with any holes for these screws to go through, but you'll see where they need to go, and I just used a punch to punch the holes through the straps prior to running the screws through there and then attaching them into place. Now I didn't want to cheap out on the top after watching some other install videos and seeing People either rip the top during installation or the top's having a plastic like finish. I definitely didn't want to go cheap on the material, so I did a little bit of research and I found this top from Sierra Auto Tops that's made out of the Hart's 12 Fast 2 material, which is supposed to be the same as the OEM BMW material. And when I received the top, I compared it to the OEM top, and it was both. You can tell by both sides of the material. The top had the same nice soft canvas feel, and the bottom you could see it had the same pattern, the same woven pattern as the OEM top. It had all the same mounting tabs, and it also had all the plastic mounting pieces. That's another thing that I saw in some of the tops online, is they didn't have those plastic mounting pieces, so you basically just had to attach the material somehow under the trim pieces. So click down below and expand the description, and I'll provide a link to the exact top that I purchased. I highly recommend it, and it's at a very fair price. All right, now I'm going to do the strap on the other side back to this point here, just like this side. Then I'm going to adjust the roof so this part comes up, and I'll do the last part of the strap that attaches underneath there. All right, both sides are done up to this point, so now I need to remove, looks like this is riveted, 3 rivets on both sides. So we'll remove that, get this piece attached in its place, and then we'll move on to the top. First thing I'm going to do, install the top into this section. I'm moving it down off of this corner, giving myself more play on that side to attach this other side. Once that's attached, then I can pull this around. All right, now I'm going to use an electrician's fish tape to fish the cable back through the top, and then I'll run it through from the front and then pull the cable back through. So you see there's a couple little flaps here that are going to get wrapped around this bar, and a couple little flaps here that are going to get wrapped around this bar, and then there is a plastic headliner piece right here that's going to attach. It's going to attach there and lock those into place. Here you'll see that I'm removing the last remnants from the old top that was left wrapped around the bars. In addition to being held in place by those plastic headliner clamps, they were also glued to the metal bars. So when I install the new pieces, I'll also use a little bit of spray headliner glue to help hold them into place as well. All right, I laid this towel down, so I'm gonna use some spray adhesive on this bar before wrapping the top around there. Using this 3M stuff. Can't really recommend it, I haven't used it before. I used Gorilla Glue on my door panels, the spray, and it kind of sucked, so I wanted to try something different. All right, now I'm working on putting the screws around the back. I forgot to mount the aluminum trim piece with the weather stripping that goes on here. I was screwing the plastic retainer for the top directly to the frame of the top, and my screws were pulling right through, and I couldn't figure out why until the next morning. I came out and I realized that I forgot all about the trim piece. First, I'm going to secure the cables back into place, and then I'll move forward with attaching the front of the top, screwing through the trim piece. All right, now lastly, we're going to attach the screws going across here, reattach this, then I'm going to reattach the trim pieces with the rivets. All right, it's the next morning. Last night I realized that I forgot to install the trim piece that goes on here. That's why I was having issues with these screws pulling through, and I had to put the washers on there because there's an aluminum trim piece that we removed that goes on here that holds the weather stripping. So today I'm going to remove all these screws and then reinstall that trim piece, and then we have a couple of flaps that we need to attach. This is supposed to go here. This screw is pretty rusted and I had a hard time getting that out. I'll give it a try again today. I put some PB Blaster on there, but if that doesn't come out, I'm just going to stitch these together. And then there's another one that is up here that is the same right there. That's the piece from the old top. I couldn't get these screws out, so I'm going to stitch these together as well, and then that should be it. Oh no, then I need to install these trim pieces still as well. The rivets that I purchased were just too short, so I need to go and get some longer rivets. All right, top's done. Now I'm just letting it sit in the sun. Hopefully it'll stretch a little bit. You see this area right there. This needs to stretch. So I'm just letting it sit out here in the heat, and then I'll put it back in the garage. Turned out pretty good. The hardest part of the whole job was getting these trim pieces back inside there, those brackets. I had a hard time getting the holes to line back up again, but eventually got it done.